Hi there, my name's Eddie, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the Wolfsbane Witch. And today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite crystals, and that is a crystal called Scolecite. And today I'm going to be sharing how I've used it, how I've worked it into my practice, and how I would recommend using it in your practice if you've just heard of this crystal, or if you've had some lying around but haven't figured out really what to use it for. This is a video for you. Now, I didn't intend to make a whole series about crystals or anything, but lately I've been really vibing with certain crystals and correspondences, so I thought this would be a fun way to kick off a sort of mini-series, like an intermittent mini-series that I might just kind of like dump a bunch of videos in every now and then, when I'm really vibing with certain correspondences or certain crystals that I'm working with. I might choose to make a couple like short one-off videos on my particular experience of those correspondences and just talking about the properties of the crystal, the plant, the oil, the correspondence, etc. From my experience within my practice and how I experience their energies. Now, just as a note, within this video and within all other videos within this sort of mini-series, I'm not trying to say that these are the correspondences or the properties, like with a capital T. I don't really believe in that sort of thing. I think that everyone has different energies, and all of these herbs and crystals and correspondences work with your energetic body in a different way. So, what works for me or what feels a specific way to me might feel a specific way to someone else in a completely different context. So, if what I'm saying doesn't vibe with you, that is great. That's awesome. That means that you now have the chance to explore your own unique relationship with these crystals, correspondences, etc. But if you do vibe with what I'm saying here, then I definitely would recommend looking more into some of the ways that I am expressing how I would use them, because clearly we have some overlap. So, with all those little disclaimers out of the way, let's just get right into it. This is my piece of Scolecite. As you can see, it grows in these sort of strands. This is a polished piece, a tumbled piece. I'll put on screen somewhere what it looks like when it's in its raw form. But it's very fragile, and I think it's pretty soft too. I think it's like a 2 or 3 on the Mohs hardness scale. It has a very similar energy to selenite, but I would say that this is stronger and like a harder energy than selenite. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels more directional. If I were to name this stone, I would name it like the crystal of bright vision or something like that. Because when I work with this stone, when I meditate with this stone, when I meditated with it specifically so I could like talk about it in this video, because I had the idea for this series a few days ago. When I meditated with it, it showed me like a vision of like walking on like a straight path made of basically just like white light. And I think that that was pretty accurate for what I have experienced with this stone. So let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that I would use it, some of the energies I associate with it, and some of the spells I think it might be good for. And then we'll wrap up this video and see what comes of this series. Alright, so first things first, I'm just going to list off some of the keywords that I have written down, and then we'll kind of go through and explain them. So some of the keywords that I have for Scolecite are light, communication, cleansing, purifying, high vibrational, protective, higher connection, and vision. So this is basically what it does for me and how I experience its energy. So when it comes to light, it seems fairly obvious. This is a white crystal, like a bright white crystal. And yes, there are some different colors that you might see inside of it and different impurities and stuff, but the crystal itself is this bright, like blinding white with a little bit of like translucence in there too. You could use it as a sort of illumination stone, like a stone of knowledge or enlightenment, because it has that association with, like, I don't want to say that light is an element, but I'm going to call it the element of light, because of its association with the element of light. You could draw in a bunch of different things. Obviously, if you work with like angels or higher vibrational entities or spirits, this would be great. This is just really a great stone for communication in general when it comes to spirit guides, when it comes to deities. Any deity, honestly, would probably vibe really well with this stone. And I prefer using it for that. It's one of the main ways that I use this crystal is as a deity communication stone. And that's the very first way I use this crystal, with this pendulum right here. So this pendulum is, as you can see, quite well loved. I'm a bit clumsy, and I tend to forget things are in my lap until I stand up and then they shatter on the hardwood floor. But luckily, now my apartment has carpets, so congratulations me. That likely will not happen again. But the stuff will definitely fall on the floor continuously. Regardless of that, I got this a long time ago. This was my first ever pendulum, and I got this when I first started working with the goddess Hecate. And this might be kind of confusing because a lot of people say, well, Hecate is a dark goddess. Why wouldn't you use like a dark crystal? Why are you using a crystal of light and a high vibe crystal? Well, deities, no matter what type of deity it is a high vibrational entity. It vibrates, and I hate using these terms because these are like scientific terms that I don't think translate directly to magic, but this is the best terminology that I have at my disposal. If there are better words for this, please let me know in the comments, because I hate using these terms. But these are all I really got to be able to describe what's going on here. Basically, they vibrate at a higher frequency, deities do, than the type of spirits that you would want to keep away. That's the basics of it. So, like, unwanted, malevolent spirits, your typical ghost probably can't use this. Maybe, like, your past relatives could. Maybe, positive spirits could. Basically, any being that has your highest good in mind. And you could also use this for working with your higher self and communicating, more psycho-spiritually with your higher self, especially if that's the sort of model that you take when you work with pendulums. You could definitely do something like that working with it, because I think that it kind of does not allow your shadow or any shadow entity to overtake the messages that it channels through. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And that's why it's so good for higher communication. That's why it's so good for protection. That's why it's good for purifying. If you had this in a point or as like a ritual knife or a wand of some sort, I think you could even do it with something like this, honestly, or something like these. But if you had something like that, you could really direct the energy. I could see you being able to use that to cut cords in a similar way that you can with selenite. I think that this crystal is super versatile, really great for pendulums and dowsing and divination work if you want to keep this with like your tarot decks, especially tarot decks that you use for like ancestor work or specifically deity work. In my opinion, it's really great for. That's probably because that's what I use it for. I have this pendulum, obviously for Hecate, and then I have another one which I also dropped. Like I said, this is a very fragile crystal. So if you're clumsy like me, be careful. And this one I use when I communicate with Odin. And this one I got much later on just because I loved how the energy of Scolecite works. You don't really ever, I've never needed to cleanse these crystals. They always feel constantly cleansed and charged, and I think that's just another perk of them being so high vibrational, is that you really don't need to cleanse them or really charge them. You could actually use these to cleanse and charge your other crystals, which again is a lot like selenite in my opinion. I would really recommend this as a pendulum or a dowsing instrument or a divinatory instrument, or as an aid for divination, like alongside your divination tools or as you're divining, to have it near you or on your altar or whatever. I would advise that if you find that you are very nervous. The reason why I started working with it, I don't know if I touched on this, which is why I'm adding it here, but the reason why I started working with it is because when I first started spirit work and working with deity and actually like trying to communicate with deity and work that into my practice, I was scared because there's a lot of fear mongering online about protection and about parasitic entities and demons and malevolent spirits and tricksters and wandering ghosts and all these crazy things will happen if you don't do divination right. And while that is a possibility, it's a very low chance possibility. Like, it's not as risky as people say it is. It's not as scary as people say it is. It can be, but yeah, no. But anyway, I was scared. I didn't want to contact Hecate and then like summon a demon or some shit, or like have a haunting in my house now. So I decided to use Scolecite as a pendulum because I knew that from the correspondences I could see from it just in general when I looked it up, it felt to me like it would be a great decision. And I stand by that decision. It really was. Because I really do feel like, as I said before, it is so high vibrational that lower vibrational entities or even your shadow self, like your psychological toxicities and stuff like that, if you're trying to contact your higher self while using the pendulum, it just can't get through for some reason with this as easy as it can with other forms of pendulums. And of course, you know, you can cleanse and protect your pendulums, and some pendulums will just naturally have certain qualities that are more suited for what they are. And I think that Scolecite is like the perfect material for a pendulum, especially if you are just beginning and you're not quite sure how to discern spirits, if you only want beneficial spirits, if you only want your deities, if you only want your ancestors, if you only want your higher self, if you don't want to worry about contacting more mundane spirits or spirits that may or may not have your best interest in mind, or, you know, things like that. I think that Scolecite is great for that form of spirit communication and that form of pendulum dowsing. I think that Scolecite is a great addition to someone's arsenal if they are feeling that sort of fear or hesitation, or if they're just not quite experienced yet. Because I think there's really no way to mess up with this sort of energy, with this sort of crystal, because as I said, it doesn't really need to be cleansed. It's very low maintenance. It's very high vibrational. It's great for many different things. It's very versatile. A really good beginner crystal. And when I say beginner crystal, just know that, like, any crystal can be a good beginner crystal. It just depends on the person. But if I were to, like, suggest something to somebody who is unsure or, like, is getting into witchy stuff, especially, like, on the more spiritual or divinatory side, you know, this is what I personally would consider a good beginner crystal for that type of person. That's what I really mean by beginner crystal, because, you know, Anyone can start out with any crystal, and it really just depends on who you are, what energies you need, and what energies the crystal kind of evokes within you, you know? Carrying on, anyway. I think another thing that I think is kind of unique about this is that this is a great stone for meditation, especially if you want visions. So you could use this for like dream work as well, or like even if you're an artist, if you want to like have a vision of what you want to draw or have like a creative vision, right? This is great for that sort of thing. I wouldn't necessarily call this like an imagination stone, because vision and imagination are not necessarily the same, but I think they work well together. So if you paired this with something like carnelian, and you had that like in your art desk or like with your art tools or something like that, if you're an artist or if you're a performer of some sort, or if you just want some creative inspiration, that could be cool because it gets that sort of imagination and creativity with a sort of directed, guided, higher vision. So yeah, that's just another thing that I noted about this stone. Again, I would call it the crystal or the stone of bright vision, because of that connection to light, the sort of directional energy it has on it, the ability to cleanse, to purify, and of course, that connection it has to the higher self and to a sense of vision. Hi, editing Eddie here. I forgot to add some stuff about like how I would use it as a witch, so I'm gonna add it here. I think first of all, if you are like a parent or if you suffer from something like anxiety or something like that, especially at night, like if you like get the heebie-jeebies at night, or if you have a kid who thinks they have like a monster under their bed or a monster in their closet or something like this, Scolecite might be really great to put in like a sleep like sachet bag or something like that and put underneath their bed or like where they think the monster is or like where you tend to get the heebie-jeebies, just place a piece of Scolecite over there, see what happens. I could also see this working, of course, as a pendulum or like with dowsing, as I said before, in the more witchy sense. But you could also use this like within your spell work, as a sort of talisman, like to wear, especially if you like are kind of more on the clairvoyant side. If you want to get messages, you could wear that to like be able to channel that a little bit easier, and of course to like protect yourself from entities. So if you do a lot of like if you go to a lot of haunted locations or if you do a lot of spirit work or if you're a professional reader and you want to make sure that you're channeling, you know, the highest good for the person that you're channeling for, you could wear something that has Scolecite or hold Scolecite, or of course keep it with your tarot cards. There's so many uses I could just think of. And of course, like I said before, if you're an artist, you could use that to kind of like charge your tools. So, you know, you could use that to charge like your paintbrushes, your pencils, put that in your like backpack if you're going to art school or if you're just in school and you're an artist. I think self-care as well, because it works with your higher self. If you struggle to really understand your higher self or like what's good for you, like if you tend to be self-sabotaging a lot or you don't really listen to your own good advice, this might be a good stone to kind of get you in tune with you, but with the you that really cares about you and wants to uplift you, and the you that wants to see you thrive both physically and spiritually. So you could use this in meditation work with that, in affirmation work with that, in any sort of self-care rituals, or just carry it around with you, and keep that in mind as you do. And, you know, just try see what happens, see what works. You can use Scolecite for sleep, and in your bedroom at night, although some people get a little like restless when there's high vibrational crystals in their room at night. So if that's you, I would personally pair this with something like amethyst or blue calcite or white calcite, or any sort of grounding stone, maybe hematite. And if that doesn't work, then I wouldn't keep it in your bed. I would put it, like I said, in the area where you get the creeps or in the area where you feel the negativity is, instead of having it like right under your pillow or right on your bed, if you feel like that's just too much for you, energetically speaking. I also want to note that when you use it for dreams, I still would pair it with something like amethyst, or maybe with like a herb like mugwort or something like that, just because it in itself is not necessarily a dream stone, just like it's not necessarily an imagination stone. It's a vision stone. So it does have some qualities that can help you with dreams or with imagination or with your goals because of that vision aspect. But the vision is only one part of it. So if you want like prophetic type dreams, you know what I mean? In that sort of sense, or like visionary type dreams, this is good for that sort of thing. It's not necessarily good for like lucid dreams or something like that. Like, it's not a dream stone in that same sense. It's a vision stone that you can use in dreams. So if that's something that does appeal to you and you're not too thrown off by high vibrational crystals, you could put that under your pillow. Again, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. But if you use this for sleep, let me know. I don't know. I use it for sleep every now and then, but typically I pair it with other more soothing and more calming crystals, so that way I'm not too overwhelmed by how bright this crystal's energy is. So you could use it to cleanse a space, to cast a circle. You could use it if you feel like you have something attached to you, like a negative entity or just someone's icky energy. It'd be great to put in, like, I think right now there's going around like the hashtag doorway spell from Witch of Wonderlust. This would be great in a doorway spell because, especially like your front door, because of that purifying and cleansing and sort of like getting away the ick of the outside gunk that might have been picked up by you going to like the store or just being in work for however many hours you were working that day. And it's great for just all around stuff. This is a really good just general stone. I think this, if I was on like a stranded island and I could only have one crystal, I feel like this would probably be the contender for the one I would bring, because it is just so versatile. Like I've said before, it has a lot of energies that are very congruent with selenite, but it also has its own stuff going on too on top of that. So I wouldn't say that it is necessarily exactly like selenite, but if you wanted to use this as like a substitute for selenite, that also has its own properties going on, again, I think that would be great. It'd be great on a lunar altar, or like I said, on basically any deity altar, any spirit altar, any ancestor altar. This would be great, especially if you are looking to start spirit communication or kind of get a more personal relationship with these spirits of whatever kind you believe in, regardless of whether it is more spiritual or more psycho-spiritual. Because it is protective, you could make like a grid, like use it for like a house grid. I know a lot of people use black tourmaline, but in my opinion, black tourmaline absorbs a lot of the negative energy, so you have to constantly be like cleansing those stones, and I don't want to have to do that. I just want to kind of set it and forget it type stone, because ADHD, low spoons, and like I got a life to live, okay? Like I don't want to have to keep cleansing every little thing all the time. And so if I can find a stone where I don't have to do that at all, or at least not very often, I like to do that. So I'm not hating on black tourmaline. Black tourmaline works like a charm. If you're in a pinch, it is awesome. But I find that it needs to be cleansed a lot more than something like Scolecite has. I have had these Scolecite pendulums for almost, one of them for almost 10 years now, and I have never had to cleanse it. I have cleansed it because I felt like I wanted to, but I've never felt the energy in it needed to be cleansed. It never felt icky to me. Whereas certain crystals I work with, they definitely need to be cleansed. And like certain tools that I have, they definitely need to be cleansed after like a few uses. Like I said, black tourmaline is definitely one of them, but Scolecite is not. So great for ADHD, great for low spoons witchcraft, good for gridding your house if you want a protection grid that also brings like a lot of, that sort of classic love and light energy. I know a lot of people be hating on those love and light people, but love and light is actually a good thing sometimes, come on. And sometimes you want that in your house. So really good for that. It's good if you have a business, especially if you have a healing business. Again, if you're a professional tarot reader, just have those around you. It's just good, okay? Scolecite. I'm a Scolecite stan. I love me some Scolecite, okay? And I think I've rambled on enough. So, yeah, back to past me. Goodbye. I'm leaving now. Goodbye. So, yeah, this is just sort of like a quick little mini series, as I said. Hopefully you like it. If you have any Scolecite and you like to work with it, let me know how you vibe with it in the comments below. If you like this series and you want to leave a like on this video, go ahead and do so. If you haven't subscribed and you would like to, go ahead and subscribe. I make a new video fairly often. And I'll see you in the next one of whatever I happen to make. And hopefully you like this new series. If you do, let me know, and take care.